So let's dive into a theory today that kind of turns our whole view of the past completely on its head. What if human history isn't just one chaotic random event after another? What if it's actually a journey that follows a surprisingly predictable path?
I mean, when you think about history, what really comes to mind? Is it just this messy jumble of wars, plagues, empires rising and falling? A big story with no real plot, just one darn thing after another? That's how we usually see it, right? But what if that's all wrong?
For the longest time, we've looked at history as this epic but totally unpredictable drama. Borders get drawn and redrawn, rulers pop up and disappear, all based on a bit of luck or who had the biggest army. But according to a theory from researcher Rochelle Forrester, underneath all that chaos, there's a hidden structure, a kind of logic that's been pushing us forward the whole time. To even begin to find that logic, we have to do something crucial first. We have to split our idea of history into two totally different streams. This, right here, is the key that unlocks the whole puzzle. And here's the big contrast. On one side, you've got what Forster calls reversible history. This is all the political stuff, the wars, the empires. It's random, it's unpredictable, it can go forwards, backwards, sideways. But then on the other side, you've got cumulative history. This is the history of science and technology. And this kind, it pretty much only moves in one direction, forward. It's like a one-way street. It builds on itself, and once we discover something fundamental, we almost never lose it.
And this is a perfect illustration. Seriously, think about it. The Babylonian Empire gets taken over by the Assyrians, who then fall to the Persians, who eventually get conquered by the Romans. All those political empires, they came and they went. But the core technologies that made their societies possible, things like farming, writing, working with metal, those things didn't disappear. Nope. They were passed on, they were improved, and they formed this continuous, unbroken line of progress right through the chaos.
So why is this stream of knowledge so predictable? What's the secret sauce that keeps it moving in a straight line? Well, it all comes down to what you could call an unbreakable chain of discovery. This is such a great way to think about it. If you've ever played a strategy game, you know this concept. You can't build a starship before you've researched basic engineering, right? You can't unlock that epic magical spell until you've mastered the beginner stuff first. This theory says that real-world history works exactly the same way. Some discoveries are absolute prerequisites for others, creating this logical, step-by-step sequence that you just can't skip. Let's just walk through a perfect example: metallurgy. First, you absolutely have to figure out how to control fire. That's step one. No fire, no metal work, period. Then comes copper, because it has a low melting point. But you can't really do much with it until you have a settled agricultural society that can build and maintain furnaces. After you master copper, you can create bronze, but that's impossible without knowing about copper and tin first. And finally, to get to iron, you need way higher temperatures, which was only possible after someone invented the bellows. See? Each step had to happen before the next one could. The sequence was pretty much inevitable.
Now, this all sounds really logical, but how can we be so sure? Well, there's a fascinating piece of evidence that seems to lock this whole idea in place, and the clues are kinda hidden in the code of history itself.
This phenomenon is called multiples. And it's just what it sounds like. It's when a huge breakthrough isn't made by one lone genius in a lab, but by several different people, completely independent of each other, all around the same time.
And the list of examples it's just incredible. Calculus was developed by both Newton over in England and Leibniz in Germany, without either knowing about the other. The theory of evolution, famously figured out by both Darwin and Wallace at the same time. Oxygen, the periodic table, even super abstract stuff like non-Euclidean geometry. The list just goes on and on. It's like once all the prerequisite knowledge is in place, that next big discovery becomes almost inevitable. It's in the air, just waiting for someone to connect the final dots. In fact, the sociologist Robert Merton, who studied this stuff for years, argued that these multiples aren't the weird exception, they are the rule. He found that discoveries made by just one person, all alone, are actually the rarer event. That's a massive piece of evidence for the idea that scientific progress follows a kind of set path.
Okay, so we've got this predictable chain of discovery. But so what? How does this abstract idea of knowledge actually shape the world we live in? This is where the theory really connects the dots between tech and how we organize ourselves as societies.
And when you lay it out like this, the connection is just impossible to ignore. Hunter-gatherer societies, they're almost always small, nomadic, and pretty equal. But then you get agrarian societies, built on farming, and suddenly you see hereditary rulers, bureaucracies, and strict social classes pop up. Fast forward to industrial societies, and what do you get? Centralized democracies, huge cities, and, for the first time, widespread literacy. It's like the technology provides the blueprint for the society.
To put it really simply, the technology sets the rules for what's even possible. A small, nomadic hunter-gatherer group just can't support the complex bureaucracy needed for a king and his court. And an industrial economy, which needs a mobile, educated workforce, is totally incompatible with the old idea of tying people to the land as serfs. The tech underneath dictates the social structure on top.
So, if we pull all these threads together, what do we actually have? Well, the theory gives us this one last powerful way to think about it all, a scientific map of history.
Imagine a map, but instead of showing continents and oceans, it shows all of human knowledge. Some facts, like how to make fire, are close by. They're relatively easy to discover. But other facts, like calculus or the secrets of nuclear physics, are way, way further away. You can only get there after a long journey, after you've passed through all the other required discoveries first. History, then, is just the story of humanity exploring this map.
And the implication of that is, well, it's profound. If this map is real, then history stops being just a collection of stories. It becomes something we can study like a science. We can start to understand not just what happened, but why it pretty much had to happen in that specific order, all driven by the logical step-by-step unfolding of what we know.
It's a radical way to rethink our entire past. But it leaves us with one last huge question. If our journey up to this point has followed a logical, predictable map, what does that say about the path that lies ahead of us?